Right to it then. Now what I want to do, as I said, I want to share with you a particular technique. I bet a lot of y'all know this, maybe done this before. Go ahead and pick up the bourbon on your left. That's Distiller Select, on your left. Now before we sip it, hold that up to the light. Look at the color. Color is very important. It's a beautiful, clear amber color. Thank you, iron-free water. If there was iron in the water, this would be cloudy, would have a metallic bitterness known as turbidity. And then if you put your cloudy bitter distillate inside the bourbon barrel, it would start to resemble motor oil inside of the first few days. So that's why we started here. We got the perfect water. Guess where else they've got that? British Isles, Germany, Canada, Japan. So you start to see that's your distillation history and tradition right there. Next, divide that into 3 sips, because as I look around, that's shorter than your Friday night, ain't it? So divide that into 3, but shorter than mine. This is how Chris is going to do it. So divide that into 3, and then let's nose it like we did the new make. Slightly open your mouth, breathe up through the nose, exhale through the mouth, thusly. Bananas, just like fermentation. They're right there on top. Caramel, wood smoke, of course. Cedar, instead of oak. That's what I get from it. Now, if you really want to go pro, reverse that. Through the nose, out the mouth, that's called orthonasal. Retronasal is when through the mouth, out the nose, like this. Completely different sensory experience. Completely different. That inside this way, the ortho, I got soft fruits, caramel, some baking spices. Through the other way, I got lemon heart candy, like leather. It's more dry. So that's why you see Chris and his team, they're going back and forth constantly doing that before they sip. Now, on the first sip, here's what I'd like you to do. When you take this, because we haven't had alcohol in the past hour unless you've been nipping on something and I didn't notice. So we're going to have to acclimate your palate. And unfortunately for us high-proof spirit lovers, the palate that's unacclimated sees the ethanol coming in as poison. And it pushes back in the form of heat. And then the heat overrides flavor. Now, this occurs even with fine spirits, and if I may, I will include our bourbons and whiskeys in that category. I will brag it's smoother and we're giving you more flavor. That's really what a premium bourbon's all about on that first sip. But it's not the whole picture, because you're still getting some pushback. So in this first sip, chew it. Roll it around your palate a good 5, 6 or more seconds, and it'll look like this. All right, that's called the whiskey chew. So cheers. You ever seen a bunch of geeks like me? And I do. I have a whiskey club in Lexington, and we're at a bar somewhere, and we got all our little flights out and everything, and we're doing like that. We're not attracting mates. We're trying to sip our whiskey. That's all we're trying to do. We don't even care at that point. We're just trying to taste our whiskey. That good chew. Some of y'all done this before, haven't you? All that good style there. Everybody's got their own little style. Now notice on that first sip, it's usually the spicier notes, isn't it? So that's true with this one. You're getting some sweet notes. It's pretty nice. But cinnamon, clove, black pepper, the sweetness is there. It's a little hard to define though, isn't it? Exactly what it is. Well, on the second sip, do the exact same thing. Roll it around, chew it, and notice even after just that one little acclimation, it's smoother and more flavorful. It feels like we numbed you down, doesn't it? But the opposite is what occurred. We have awakened your palate. Your palate opened up more flavor receivers. They're called nociceptors to deal with all that ethanol alcohol. Are you all right, my dear?
Yeah.
You're gonna be all right. Do you need a cigarette or anything? In my days in Louisville, that's how we solved all our problems. Yeah. Let's go see Uncle Robbie, have a cigarette, and then some whiskey. Bought a house that way. So, that's a bar business right there. So printing money. So, it's still, that's a better sip, baby. It's smooth, more flavorful. I always start getting hazelnut pecans every time, pecans for me. Now my wife on that second sip, her notes always include cherries and almonds. Again, no surprise, because they're the same substance in nature. They share a big substance. Now in the third sip, let's use chocolate to amplify flavor. So, take a bite, if you care to, of that Ruth Hunt bourbon ball. If you're not familiar with Ruth Hunt, we have 3 candy makers in Kentucky. They're all excellent. We have Old Kentucky chocolates. We have Rebecca Ruth. You may have seen them coming in. and then Ruth Hunt. Ruth Hunt has been in Mount Sterling, Kentucky since 1921. So they're going on 100 years of age. I think you see why, you're chewing that. We partnered with them, so now their candy's made with Distiller Selects. A nice compliment. But where this gets really interesting on the flavor, that 60% dark chocolate coating. Now, I may have mentioned earlier 212 flavors in that bottle is what we're looking for. Well, 60% dark chocolate has around 400. It's very complex. A lot of these flavors are the same in the chocolate and the bottle, but the big six that are going to be amplified for you: cinnamon, clove, hazelnut, cherry, raspberry, blackberry. So once you've swallowed your chocolate, take that third sip, Distiller Select, see what combination you get. For me, it's cinnamon right up front. I mean, like boom, like somebody added like red hot candy or something to my bourbon, and long baking spice finish. It's mostly cloves for me. Little bit of the nuttiness. My wife, on the other hand, and this is her bliss point, she describes this every time as chocolate-covered cherries, and she also gets raspberry blackberry. That's pretty wild. Now, I do want to tell you something. If you're thinking, and a lot of people do, well, this is power suggestion. You know, Rob could say anything, and I taste it. You know, that's not true. And you cannot fool yourself. I have a friend, a mentor of mine in the industry, really the guy that set me on my path when it comes to spirits. And he is now a master sommelier in Louisville, because there's only a couple hundred of these folks. He's the kind of guy that can tell what color socks Chris was wearing, right, when he put the batch together. He takes a peanut butter note on that bourbon. And I get that. Now, I don't get a peanut butter sensation from it. But if you looked at the list of substances that are in the bottle, you can connect the dots of the peanut butter right there. Mine was watermelon. So if I just stood here and said, well, hey, y'all, does that second sip taste like hush puppies or garlic fries? And you just said, no, Rob, it does not, right? And that's because they're not in the bottle. So all I can do is suggest things that might be easier for you to detect because they are actually there. Our master taster, she's made gummy bear notes, bubblegum notes from barrels. You just go with what you know because you can't fool yourself. So that's our first bourbon. It was my favorite for a long time. That's my old friend. But in 2012, my new friend came out, and that is double oaked. Who's had double oaked before? You know, I could have guessed. Now, look at these folks. They seem happy, content in life. Right? Yes, it's the double oaked. Go ahead and pick up that darker one on the right. Let's sip this. Nose this one. Man, pancake breakfast every time, isn't it? Maple syrup, melted butter, hickory smoke, butterscotch. Sip it freely. I won't torture you with this one. You don't have to divide it into three. I do recommend give it a good roll around, though, okay? Now, how smooth is that? I'll tell you how we crafted this. We use literal labels, right? Distiller Select. That means Chris selected the barrels. He's responsible for that. Double oaked means we use 2 brand new charred oak containers. Here's what you can do. The law didn't say how many new charred oak containers. Now, you can only use them one time. So once you empty it, that's it for bourbon. You could use it for a Kentucky whiskey or a scotch, tequila, rum, beer, wine, soy sauce, all kinds of stuff go in. But there's nothing to prevent you from emptying the bourbon from one bourbon barrel into another new charred oak container. This has to be new and charred and oak. So this one does use 2. It begins live as a batch of Distiller Select, crafted like any other. No difference. Most of these are going to get bottled. Some of these batches we hold back and put into a second barrel. Now, there is a difference in the barrels. This is something we can do because, as I mentioned, we make our own barrels at our own cooperage in Louisville, Kentucky. That's unique to Woodford Reserve and our parent company, the folks that created Woodford Reserve, Brown-Forman Corporation. They, in the 40s, bought an old furniture plant, converted it into a cooperage. It's right outside the airport in Louisville. And we, of course, char the barrels. That is actually where we get vanilla flavor, is when you set fire to white oak. It smells like a giant roasting marshmallow. But before we set fire to it, we toast the inside of the barrel with radiant heat, just like you would a piece of bread at home. And you know, the reason a lot of us use white oak is because it's very sweet. There's a lot of natural sugars in the wood. And that heat acts like a magnet to these natural sugars. So a lot of them move to the inside surface of the barrel. And that sets the stage for this nice thorough caramelization of sugars when we do set it on fire to char it. That's where we're creating butterscotch, maple, toffee, caramel, a deeper, more roasted vanilla, like a roasted marshmallow, if you're getting some of that. The melted butter, also coffee and some other things are coming out of this. So the first set of barrels, lightly toasted, medium-ish char. It's a proprietary level. There's 5 levels in the industry. We have our own cooperage in our own system, so it's medium-ish. Well, the second barrel, instead of a light toasting, this barrel has been heavily toasted. And a super light char, almost the opposite. We just wanted to caramelize the sugars. But that is a new charred oak container, therefore that is a legitimate bourbon. Double oaked. I love this stuff. Right from day one, when I sipped it, I was just like, oh, wow, you know, just here, take my money. I'll have it. And my wife loves it too. We call it, I think most of y'all will get this, but silly note here. We both love bourbon. We both read a lot of books. My wife's a scientist, and we have this old house. And in the middle of the house is where we keep our books, and we call that our library. So one time we were cleaning out some stuff, and I found this old huge snifter from like 30 years ago that I used to use in bars as a tip jar, right? So I was feeling rather merry, and I got my big snifter out, and I poured a bunch of double oak in it, and I'm holding it, and I'm standing around, you know, in the library, and she goes, "You're like Ron Burgundy." With the mahogany and the leather-bound volumes. So Ron Burgundy. Yeah, try that. You look good with a snifter. It looks very sophisticated. You know what we also do with it? I don't have the poetry of like a master taster or a song. So I get something appley from this, overripe and apple. And the mulling spices kind of sensation, and figs and tobacco and everything. And it just made me think of apple cider. So last winter, which some of my Kentucky friends will back me up on this, I know Northerners find this cute, but we had a tough winter here. More snow than we're used to. Things were closed. And I kind of like those nights, right? Because the keys are hanging, we're not going anywhere. We break into the bourbon stash, and we started mixing this with hot apple cider.
Oh boy.
Yeah, right? Oh, a little squeeze of lemon. So kind of like a toddy. And the deal is, here's the trick. If you're picking up a flavor from your bourbon, use that to craft your cocktail, because then you're not covering up flavor. You're complementing, accentuating flavor. If you're using premium bourbons, making cocktails, and you're covering flavor, I would say reevaluate the cocktail and really reevaluate your life. Right? We have a paltry amount of time on this rock. Enjoy it. So there you go. Don't be afraid to craft cocktails. Just don't overdo it. Yeah, Big Red and that does not work. So don't do that. Well, around here, that's for White Castles. I don't know what you pair with your White Castles. Big Red here. Folks, y'all are so fine. I wish I owned the place. I'd certainly open these up. And right, I know. And we can pass it around, take a tug, but we're going to have to exit this room. Our time is up. It's behind us. So I just, thank you.